Welcome to the Dealmakers Podcast. The Dealmakers is a platform for leaders in the commercial real estate industry to share their personal stories, business insights, and industry secrets because we believe in spotlighting the real people behind the deals. This podcast is brought to you by Agora, a comprehensive real estate investment and management platform offering a wide range of services to enable real growth and provide the best real estate investment experience both for GPs and LPs. I'm Asaf Raz. Let's go.
And today with me, I have someone that I've been looking for a long time to talk to. Most of my guests are like that, but like Ken is one of my special ones. We met at the Real Estate X Gala. We also met at ICSC, and I'm gonna talk with Ken about that because it was a pretty interesting conference. But yeah, Ken Ashley, please take it away. Tell us about yourself. Tell our audience about you so they know who you are, and we'll start the conversation from there.
Well, Asaf, thank you so much for having me on. I'm glad that you're doing this and highlighting folks in our industry, so it provides tremendous value. And thank you for having me on your air today. So I've been in commercial real estate now for 29 years. I started with long black hair, and you see what happened. And quite simply, my entire career, I've represented companies, not buildings. And I love the idea of representing companies because they are entrepreneurs. Many of them are corporate executives who are trying to achieve something. And I love listening to the strategic imperative, whatever they're trying to accomplish. And what I know is real estate is one tool in the toolbox to solve their problems. And I love the dinners. I love being there and hearing about their successes, and to some extent hearing about what's painful in life and how we can help and solve for that with their second biggest cost, which is commercial real estate after labor.
There we go. So Ken, tell us a bit about your history in real estate. If you don't know, Ken is one of the most successful brokers that I've known, realtors, brokers. You have you tell us exactly how that works on your end. He's also the entrepreneur of one of the most interesting summits I've heard of this year called CREI Summit. It's been happening for a few years now. Ken, please also explain to us about that and some of your history and how you got into what you're doing today.
Sure. Well, I got into commercial real estate because I had a friend that was in the business, and this is how it happens so many times. We're kind of an opaque business. In third grade, when your dad comes to work, your mom comes to the school, and they talk about what they do, you want to be a firefighter, you want to be a doctor, you don't want to be a tenant rep. But what I began to find about this wonderful business is we get to solve big, meaty problems. We get nicely compensated when that occurs. And we can have a real impact on a city and on hundreds and sometimes even thousands of people where they work every day. I'm very proud to ride around my city and even around the United States and look at buildings and know that I did deals there. It's pretty cool. But the other side of the business is there's lumpy cash flow. And as I like to say to my team, we wake up unemployed every morning. It would be really boring to me on January 1 to know what I'm going to make every year. And it's an adventure each and every year. It's a great business. You earn the right to be here. The benefits, you have total control of your time. My only boss is my clients, and I haven't asked off for a vacation in nearly 30 years. I go when I need to go, but I also am aware that I have a big responsibility to those clients that we serve and to the team here that supports them. With respect to the CREI Summit, it was a COVID project. It was in March of 2020, and I was making my buddy calls, hey buddy, and what became evident to me is there was no source of truth, and we were using digital tools much more during COVID, and for some, for the first time, to stay in touch. And there was no place you could go to find really cool people who were in our business to follow. So on a whim, I started a list, and today we're up to 7 different lists of commercial real estate professionals who are doing interesting things on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and others. You can go to the website and check it out. And then in October of that year, Corey Davidson with Colliers, my great buddy, tweeted, hey, it sure would be good if we could get together. And he later said he meant to drink beer. But I heard it differently. And so we started this conference, and this September 11th, 12th, and 13th in Atlanta is going to be actually our 4th year. And what we're focused on at the conference is taking commercial real estate professionals and amping up their message. Marketing is what they think about you before you walk in the room. How do we improve what people think about you?
Yeah, and I think you're one of the best examples so I'm a marketing guy, right? I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
But I think you're one of the unique examples of how this should be done, right? Because I can easily see someone it's crazy. If you go to Ken's profile on LinkedIn, you see 28 years and 9 months at Cushman Wakefield. I can easily find 20 different profiles that say the same thing and have zero following, have zero engagement, have nothing happening on their profile. And now I look at your profile, going close to 12,000 followers, crazy amount of engagement, both on LinkedIn and on X. And you've done something very, very special there. So I really appreciate what you're doing with CREI. I think people really need that help. And it's super cool. We're going to dive into some of those marketing strategies later down the conversation. I think one of the important topics for me to talk about, so you said like your boss is your client, right? In the past, I would say 2, maybe 2.5, maybe almost 3 years have been pretty pivotal for the commercial real estate industry. And we've all had these conversations before: interest rates and insurance rates and construction rates and the employees, how much it costs to hire new people or pay for new people to work in your real estate. And it's just getting really complex. I know that we're kind of shifting out of that. We're seeing interest rates going back to a normal rate. We're seeing the Fed doing a little bit of different things. But what do you think are those trends that you're hearing towards the end of this year, going into 2025, when it comes to the commercial real estate industry? What are some things that you think are going to reshape that industry towards next year?
Okay, sure. And I want to clarify, I'm an investor on a personal level, but I'm not a capital markets broker, so I can talk a little bit about that. But what I'm really focused on is the occupier or the user. And here are some trends that I think we're seeing. First of all, as evidenced by even recent press, return to the office is a legitimate and important mandate. It's not just office brokers who are saying it, it's the titans of the largest companies in the world. And when I talk about it, yes, culture, yes, all the evidence we have that there's a lot of loneliness and mental unwellness in the world, and being together is a good thing. But there's one reason that I've found above all else, really, for us to be in the office. And this is me talking to one of the largest real estate directors in the world about why he wants his employees in: the speed of business. And so here's the thing, Asaf, we're working on a project together, and you're a busy guy, and it might take me 7 or 8 days to get on your Teams calendar or your Google Meet or whatever you use. Or I could catch you coming back in from lunch and say, hey, what do you think about this? And in 2 sentences, you've solved the problem. Mm-hmm. So the speed of business is a lot harder to do in a remote type of environment. Do I believe there's a role for remote? Absolutely. We continue to evolve. Technology continues to evolve, but we can't lose the importance of people being together. Second trend, you can't build an office, or you can't build a church for Easter Sunday, but you better build your office for Wednesday. So we need to think about right-sizing the office and being smart about it. But what it is not is being utilized all the time. If we owned a hotel together, we wouldn't be upset because people weren't there during the day. We understand that that's the way the product is used. So let's calm down about Fridays and just understand that the business imperative is to drive the business forward. And the third trend is the landlord wellness of your landlord, to make sure that we're checking and that we're doing business with people as best we can that are healthy. And I think for the next 2 years or so, that's going to be a major factor, because nobody wants to be in a zombie building.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And I'm seeing that. I mean, we're feeling that too. So some days I'll come to this office. We're right in the middle of Manhattan, right? A little bit south. But I'd come into this office some days. People are working, but they're not here. I'll be here mostly by myself with a couple of people maybe. And some days it's packed. It's crazy. You don't have a meeting room. I can't even do this podcast sometimes because it's so full. I think like we're in what I would call maybe grade B kind of office, right? Where we're seeing that this entire building is not fully occupied. It's almost fully occupied. There's maybe one floor that is currently vacant. Are you seeing any differences when we're talking about grade A, grade B office buildings? I know that you said like, yes, people are moving back to office, but what are some of those differences in the quality of these office buildings and how they're being occupied currently?
Yeah, I think that's such a clutch question. Because really, no longer is it about the space. It's about the place. It's about where we're locating into a certain community. And what I think most American workers, knowledge workers in major cities want is to be able to go out during lunch and to have a nice meal or have a cup of coffee or have the ancillary support type of amenities. They want to feel safe. They want to be able to walk their dog. They want to be able to enjoy the neighborhood. So yes, there's absolutely a flight to quality. And here's a big important thing to note, a big asterisk about that. We stopped building office space in America. The product that is delivering will deliver, and I don't think we will start a new Class A office building of any size or substance for at least 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you can read the writing in the major, with the headline grabbing, office space is dead. Okay, help, enjoy the read. It's not true. And Class C office space may be dead, but Class A office space is hotter than ever. And so I would encourage you, if you've got a need, if you've got a requirement, to call your tenant rep and get busy, because it's only going to get substantially more expensive to go to where you can walk your German Shepherd and have a good cup of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing. I remember you and I we were there together. We went to, it was Hudson Yards, right?
Yep.
I forgot the name of that building. It's 30 Hudson Yards, maybe? That's building, right? And we were there, and I remember, I talked about this in so many episodes. It was the CEO of Related. I forgot his name. I'll remember in a second. And he said that people all the time, they say like, office is dead. That's it. No more office. Like, people are not going to go back to work in office. But he has 100% occupancy. He literally has no open available seat. And he says, office isn't dead. It's just, if you know how to run that business and you run a Class A office space, then it's going to be rented. And I think that's a really good way to look at it. If you run your business well, if you find good tenants, right? They don't have to be in the office every day, all day. It's not what we're used to, 10 years ago, but it's definitely there and it's definitely happening. And we see office spaces being less and less vacant over time. So that's really something interesting to look at. And I appreciate your take on that trend. Let's go a little bit into some of those, I would call this growth opportunities. So let's say I'm an investor right now, or I'm a landlord looking to expand into office. I think when you look at how the market shifts, I think the place that usually people say is the worst to invest right now, that's where opportunities are going to arise pretty quickly. And I think that's also what's happening with office. What do you think are some of the greatest opportunities for growth, specifically in office, within the next, let's say, few years?
From the perspective of investors in office?
It could be investors, could be owners, tenants, depends on what type of perspective you think.
Okay, well, if I were an investor and I were looking, I'd be looking for Main and Main that has a little bit of distress. There's a whole, the distress isn't what it was in 2008, 9, 10. It's a different kind of distress, but we're starting to see the end of extend and pretend, and I think banks are finally beginning to deal with their
problems.
With their problems,
Yeah.
but they're not taking assets back in large measure to REO. They're looking for strategic partners.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can use, our great partner is CREI, is TREP. Somebody like TREP has a database to find those buildings that are potentially in trouble, and be sort of salvation equity or a bridge kind of thing, or even a partner, or take someone out. I think that's a real opportunity.
Yeah.
I think another opportunity is looking at Class B buildings that have, and this is a new trend we identified on X last week, a relatively new trend, and that is looking in suburban locations where they're Class B or even Class A minus buildings that are not doing well, but they have the lights just went out in my office.
That's all right. They're gonna cut this out. Don't worry.
They're going to cut. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
But they're going to have. But those buildings are going to have land, and so what we're seeing people doing is they put all of the tenants in one building, they demolish the others, and then they build multifamily, because we are underhoused in America. I've written about how difficult it is to repurpose office buildings, but it's perfectly fine to tear them down and rebuild or purpose build multifamily.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. I have not heard of this one. As you said, it's fairly new. So what you're saying is essentially, as let's say an owner, right, of that sort of property, if you want to do essentially change the property itself. You could, instead of doing the change from office to, let's say, multi or whatever you're going to do with that, just tear it down and build it up again. That's the idea.
So let me give you a scenario. Let's say we're in suburban Atlanta in a town called Alpharetta, and they built in the 90s and for about 10 years these bread box buildings. They're 5-story buildings, and maybe there are 3 buildings on 20 acres because they have a big parking field. So here's the play: go buy the 3 buildings on 20 acres, jam all the tenants into one building on a smaller parking field, demolish the other 2, and build multifamily and retail around there. That can pencil, especially if the demographics support it.
That's really cool. I'm going to track this one, Ken. I'm going to track this one. This is a pretty cool trend. I like that. Okay. So in order to keep within the timeline that our audience has been asking for, 20 minutes or less, we're going to jump into a little bit of a different topic, and we're going to focus a little bit more of the marketing aspect, social media. I think that you're one of these, I call this entrepreneurs, right? But essentially you're one of those people that are trailblazing what's happening with commercial real estate and social media. So historically, what we're used to seeing is commercial real estate people they don't think that social media is important, right? And if you go 5 years, 10 years back, they were not even on social media. They've probably been lurkers. They've been scrolling around, watching puppy videos, whatever. We all do that, right? But they never used it as a professional tool to actually, put themselves out there, find new opportunities, create good relationships. And then what's happening is that people like you are actually trailblazing. They're leading the way into utilizing social media to create monetary value. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about your journey in social media. What happened there? Why did you decide to go into it? And how did that influence your current career?
Yeah, thank you. So April of 2009 was a difficult time in my career. That lumpy cash flow was coming to roost. And, I decided to do 3 things that changed things for my career. Number one, we worked really hard for a long time to pay off all our personal debt, which is, if you live in a house debt-free, that's a pretty great feeling. Second is I shifted my business into an accounts business, which we can talk about later. But the third is I started marketing myself differently and through social media. And I would say if you're a broker who gets business at a country club and you're making a great living, keep it up. I mean, I'm not evangelizing. You don't have to do this. It's just what has worked for me. But here's what I know. We have today 2 things that are happening. Number one, we have increasingly powerful and some of the most powerful digital tools in human history, many of which are free. And if you simply know how to use them, you can have a gigantic impact quickly. The analogy is, I'm not a very good cook. If I walk into a kitchen, you're going to get Pop-Tarts. If a chef walks into a kitchen, you're going to get a wonderful meal, same food, same tools. So that's what CREI Summit is about training people to become gourmet chefs and the use of these tools. I think the second thing that is going on is purchase behavior, Asaf, which is younger people are making purchase decisions about commercial real estate. And you know what? They get social proof of their purchase by looking in social media first.
Yep.
And so the country club broker, hey, dude, keep it up, keep making a living. It may not last for forever as younger people come into decision-making roles. And if you are a decision maker in commercial real estate, your biggest imperative is to avoid a CLM. And that's a career limiting move. Hiring the wrong broker can be a CLM. So how do you know that you're going to hire someone that will really listen to you, that is focused on you and not just a commission check? Social proof comes through social media.
That's so simple. I don't think I've ever heard someone put it this way. Your social proof is your social media. That's crazy. And I think we have superstars in this area. We have you, and we have Aviva Sonrick from Warehouse Hotline, and we have the strip mall guy, aka Don Tepman, and we have a bunch of people doing Bob Knackle. We have a bunch of people doing it really well. And I think this is some sort of a lesson. I mean, it's never too late to jump in. It's never too late to try. And honestly, I think the thing that works the best is just speak who you are and how you think, how you work. And there's so many people on those networks. There is definitely going to be a community, a group of people that are going to be connected to what you're saying and what you're talking about. So I think it's the first thing is to actually do that and do it over time consistently. And I've seen that it's been extremely successful for you. I know I can literally see it. So it's incredible. And thank you for that insight. If anyone is listening to this and you're contemplating, I'm doing commercial real estate, should I be in social media? Yes, you need to be on social media. That's the time. This is the place. It's never too late, and you gotta start trying. Great, Ken. So the last piece of every episode is what we call the shameless plug. And the idea of the shameless plug, I explain this every time, is for you to shamelessly plug in. What are you doing today? What are some opportunities you have? What are you looking for yourself in terms of your business or your even personally? We've had great connections happen through this podcast behind the scenes. So the shameless plug is a really helpful tool for people to understand what are you doing today? What are you looking for? Please take it away as shamelessly as you can.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Of course, I'm going to plug CREI Summit. Whether you're involved now or in the future, we're a merry band of people. And I want to tell you a couple of things that make us different than the regular conference. First of all, there's no other place you can learn how to use these digital tools from people who are on the front lines. I love my friends who are in corporate marketing. They're terrific. They're very talented at what they do. But with all due respect, they're not on the front lines every day. I have a degree in marketing as well, Asaf, and I think about marketing a lot. But if I went back to get another degree in marketing, my professor, as great as she or he might be, is not on the front lines every day. I believe iron sharpens iron, and we are people who are on the front lines, who are at a conference, who are trying to share. And we actually have a selfish reason for sharing, because we actually get more than we contribute to the conversation. So you have an ability to transform your practice. And we're going to announce at the conference something called CREI Plus. So if you can't make it, you can reach out and we can figure out how to get you involved in that digital community. And we're going to continue to meet once a year. These tools are changing. Strategies are changing. Consumer behavior is always changing. And if you are just getting involved in social media and listening to this podcast, we can handle it. This is not just for experts. This is for someone who, I'm 57 now. If you've never sent a tweet or never posted on Instagram, it's okay. We'll get you started. That's how the program is going to work. You're going to have a customized program coming out of CREI Summit. That's the website. That's the plug.
There we go. That's an amazing plug. Thank you so much, Ken, for joining me for another episode of the Dealmakers Podcast and sharing your valuable insight and experience with us today. It was truly enlightening to hear your perspective on the real estate industry and your journey within it. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dealmakers Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss out on the latest conversations with industry leaders. If you have any suggestions for future guests or topics, or if you'd like to be a guest yourself, please reach out to us via Agora's website or our social media. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes as we continue to explore the stories behind the deals and the people making them happen. Ken, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Asaf.